Welcome to the El Salvador SV News Podcast, a space for conversation and reflection where we explore current topics from El Salvador and the world together. You can support this project via PayPal. You'll also find details in the description of this content or by purchasing digital content of products you might like. Check out what interests you and make a purchase. With that, you help and support us to continue providing content. You'll find all the methods in the content description. Find US on your favorite platform on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio. We're on almost all platforms as News El Salvador SV.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Friday, February 20, 2026. And usually, by the time we hit Friday, the news cycle starts to wind down a bit. It lets us all catch our breath.
Right. Everybody is looking toward the weekend.
Exactly. But today's the exact opposite. I mean, looking at the dossier we have in front of us, it really feels like the world's operating system is it is being rewritten in real time.
It absolutely does. I was just reviewing the latest market data and the geopolitical cables we pulled for this. And the theme that jumps out at me isn't just breaking news. It is displacement.
Displacement. That is a good way to put it.
Yeah. We're seeing the rise of entirely new power structures in Latin America, the literal physical arrest of the old guard in the United Kingdom, and a fundamental battle for the definition of money itself right here in the United States of America.
And for you listening, our mission today is to filter out the noise. We have a massive stack of official reports, market data, and investigative articles. We aren't going to name the specific outlets or agencies, but just know everything we unpack today is strictly factual, based on that verified source material.
And my focus, as always, will be on the systemic side of things. What this actually means for the global economy, liquidity, and the financial structures we all rely on.
Right, and I'll be tracking the timeline, the breaking news context, and the political fallout. So let's get right into it. The first signal of this displacement you mentioned comes from a pretty surprising place. We have been tracking El Salvador's tech pivot for a while now.
We have, yeah.
But it received a massive global validation this week at the AI Impact Summit 2026 over in New Delhi, India.
It did. And the context of this is huge. You had Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, on stage. He is discussing the future of global healthcare. And significantly, he didn't point to the United States of America as the gold standard. He didn't point to Germany or Japan. He pointed directly to El Salvador.
Which is a massive shift in the global narrative. Usually, developing nations are the ones following the lead of the superpowers. Here, it seems to be completely reversed. What exactly was Pichai praising in New Delhi?
He was specifically highlighting an app called DoctorSV, which launched back in November of 2025. I actually have the translation of his exact remarks right here.
Oh, perfect. What did he say?
He said, El Salvador is an example where Google has partnered with the government to diagnose and provide accessible, AI-driven treatment to thousands of people who previously did not have access to a doctor.
Previously did not have access to a doctor. I mean, that is the key phrase, isn't it? So this isn't just some administrative update where they are digitizing old paper files.
No, not at all. This is about using artificial intelligence to bridge a massive physical resource gap. It is what economists call a leapfrog strategy.
Like skipping landlines.
Exactly like that. Think about how many nations across Africa entirely skipped building underground telephone infrastructure and just went straight to mobile cellular networks. El Salvador is applying that exact same logic, but to the state apparatus itself.
So they are trying to skip the heavily bureaucratic healthcare phase and go straight to automated AI-assisted diagnostics.
Precisely. It is a pure efficiency play.
And of course, the president of El Salvador didn't miss the chance to capitalize on this endorsement. He jumped right on X, formerly Twitter, to respond to the Google CEO.
He did. He quoted Pichai's presentation and added his own translation of the vision. He wrote, "True, but that was only the first step."
We just want to take a moment to remind you that you can support this project via PayPal. You'll find the details in the description of this content.
Alternatively, you could consider purchasing digital content of products you might like. Just check out what interests you and make a purchase. With that, you help and support us to continue providing this content. You'll find all the methods in the content description.
Thank you for that. That support is what allows us to keep doing these deep dives, especially on days like today when we have to pivot between such heavy and complex topics.
It really is. We are actually building the best public healthcare system in the world.
Now, coming from a politician, that sounds like typical hyperbole, right? The best in the world.
It is definitely bold. But if you strip away the political posturing and just look at the raw economics, the core insight here is about the modernization of the state. The analytical reports argue that they are applying a startup mentality to government services. They're using data to bypass the traditional bottlenecks that slow down much larger, older nations.
Notwithstanding that ambition, you can't just build the Tesla of healthcare in a vacuum, especially if your country is unstable.
Exactly. As any financial analyst will tell you, you cannot foster a high-tech economy if your physical assets, primarily your citizens, are not safe. Security is the bedrock of economic velocity.
Which brings us to the security context in the dossier. The reports for this month, February 2026, show that El Salvador has already clocked 16 consecutive days without a single homicide.
Which is statistically remarkable given the region's historical data. But the real headline regarding security today actually isn't what happened on the streets, it is what happened out in the ocean.
Right, this was a massive historic operation. The National Navy intercepted a vessel out in the Pacific. It was flying an African flag, and they seized 6.6 tons of cocaine.
Just to put that volume in perspective, that is the largest single seizure in the country's history from an African flag vessel. We are talking about an estimated street value of over $165 million.
$165 million. It is honestly hard to even visualize that much illicit cash floating in the water.
Well, let me give you a financial comparison that I think perfectly illustrates the transition El Salvador is attempting right now. We also have the economic data on Shakira's recent concert residency in the country.
Ah, yes. The press was calling it the Shakira effect.
Exactly. The economic impact of her tour on the national economy, the hotels, the restaurants, the local vendors, was estimated at roughly $110 million.
Wait, so the economic value of a pop star's concert tour is
almost comparable to the value of the massive drug bust.
Exactly. That is wild to think about.
It is. But here is the deep dive takeaway for this segment. While it is true that they are comparable in financial scale, they are diametrically opposed in their systemic function. The $165 million drug bust represents the extractive economy.
Meaning it pulls value out of the system.
Right. It relies on violence, it relies on corruption, and it ultimately destroys civic institutions. Conversely, the $110 million generated by Shakira represents the creative economy. It builds tourism, services, and cultural capital.
And crucially, Shakira, or really any major global artist, is not going to book a multi-week residency in a country that is currently overrun by cartels.
Exactly. That is the structural trade-off we are observing. They are using extreme, uncompromising security measures to completely crush the illicit economy. Nevertheless, doing so is what allows the creative economy to actually take root. It is a deliberate pivot from trafficking to tourism.
The data clearly suggests that security is the absolute prerequisite for liquidity in a legitimate market.
Perfectly stated.
So that is the new world, right? Trying to build a modernized system from scratch using AI and strict security. Now, let's cross the Atlantic to the old world, because the United Kingdom is dealing with a historic, unprecedented collapse of dignity and tradition today.
Collapse is honestly the only word for it. We are looking at the formal arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor,
formerly known as Prince Andrew. This breaking news hit the wires early this morning. He was arrested by Thames Valley Police right at 8 a.m.
on his 66th birthday, no less.
A pretty grim birthday present. The reports say he was held for nearly 11 hours before being released pending further action. Now, we need to be very specific here for you listening, because I think a lot of people will immediately assume this is about the Virginia Giuffre's sexual assault case from a few years ago.
And they would be entirely wrong. That case was a civil settlement. This situation is entirely different. The documents show this is a formal criminal investigation into misconduct in public office.
Right. The timeline for this specific investigation focuses on his official role as a trade envoy for the United Kingdom between 2001 and 2011.
Now, misconduct in public office sounds a bit vague to a layperson. What is the actual specific allegation detailed in the intelligence dossier?
It is highly specific and quite honestly damning from a national security perspective. He is accused of handing over highly confidential trade reports directly to Jeffrey Epstein.
Trade reports regarding what exactly?
Specifically, internal state assessments regarding Vietnam, Singapore, and the post-war reconstruction of Afghanistan.
Wait, so the core allegation is that an active member of the royal family was actively trading state secrets, raw economic intelligence to a private financier?
Correct. Which Epstein could then use to front-run sovereign debt markets or secure private infrastructure contracts. And that is why this is so deeply historic. We have not seen a member of the royal family formally arrested by police since King Charles I, which was almost 400 years ago.
But the real systemic significance here is the total removal of what we might call the royal shield.
The traditional immunity is just gone.
Completely evaporated. Misconduct in public office is not a minor infraction. It is a charge that carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. It fundamentally reframes him in the eyes of the law. He is no longer being treated as a royal who just had bad friends.
He is being treated as a corrupt public official.
Exactly.
Right.
It treats the monarchy not as some divine, untouchable institution, but essentially as a government job. A job that is fully subject to the same legal scrutiny as any corporate officer leaking trade secrets.
And the reaction from the current monarch, King Charles III, really seems to confirm that the shield is down.
It was incredibly cold.
Very cold. His official statement was literally one sentence. I have the quote here. "The law must take its course."
No defense whatsoever. No statement of familial support. No call for privacy. It strongly signals a ruthless modernization of the monarchy. They are willingly cutting off the infected limb to save the body of the institution.
And naturally, the President of the United States of America weighed in on this as well.
He did. President Trump spoke to the press and called the arrest very sad and very bad for the royal family.
But beyond the obvious media soundbite, the subtext is what matters. The era of untouchable legacy institutions is clearly eroding. Whether you are a highly placed trade envoy or a literal prince, if the data comes out, your immunity evaporates.
Speaking of President Trump, I think this transitions us perfectly to our next segment in the dossier. Because if you thought a royal arrest was strange, the press briefing on Air Force One today felt like a science fiction screenwriter hijacked the news feed.
It really did. This is what you were calling the distraction versus danger segment of our analysis earlier, right?
Exactly. Because the headline that is flashing on every single screen right now is that the President of the United States of America has formally ordered the release of government files on UFOs, UAPs, and extraterrestrial life.
Right. It completely dominates the attention economy. It catches the eye immediately.
But the actual exchange with the press pool was, well, bizarre is an understatement.
A reporter essentially asked him point blank if aliens are real, citing the fact that former President Obama had previously gone on record saying there is footage and records in the archives that we simply can't explain.
And Trump didn't confirm or deny the existence of the aliens at all. Instead, he immediately pivoted to attacking Obama.
Yes. His exact quote was that Obama, quote, gave out classified information and committed a huge mistake.
Which creates this perfect, impenetrable fog of information. Did Obama make a mistake because he revealed a profound truth to the public? Or did he make a mistake simply because he spoke out of turn regarding state secrets?
It leaves the door completely wide open for endless conspiracy theories.
It captures the attention of the public completely. It is classic textbook misdirection. But here is the critical warning for you listening to this deep dive right now. While you are looking up at the sky wondering about flying saucers, you urgently need to be looking down at the geopolitical map.
Because the risk indicators right now are flashing bright red, and the threat isn't coming from Mars.
No, it is coming from Iran. Buried right beneath the UFO headlines, the diplomatic cables in our dossier detail a severe, immediate ultimatum that Trump has issued to the Iranian government. He's given them a strict 10 to 15-day window to reach a new nuclear or security deal.
And if they refuse,
his exact words to the press were, and I quote, "Bad things will happen."
Bad things will happen. In international diplomatic terms, that is incredibly blunt. And given the current administration in the United States of America, that is very likely not just a metaphor.
It is not a metaphor at all, and the market implications of this are severe. The intelligence reports indicate that Israel is already mobilized and ready for a multi-front war involving Hezbollah if the United States of America actually engages militarily with Iran.
And if that regional conflict kicks off, oil prices will absolutely skyrocket overnight. Global supply chains will fracture, and the equity markets will take a massive, immediate hit.
Exactly. On the other hand, the friction isn't just isolated to the Middle East. We have serious escalation happening right in the Caribbean, too.
Yes, the Moscow meeting. Vladimir Putin just held an official meeting with the Cuban foreign minister in Moscow, and they explicitly, jointly rejected all U.S. sanctions.
And in direct response to that alliance, Trump has declared a formal national emergency regarding the proximity threat from Cuba.
So just to recap the actual geopolitical board for a second, we have a highly probable kinetic war brewing in the Middle East. We have Russian military and diplomatic influence expanding just 90 miles off the coast of Florida.
And yet the mainstream media is obsessing over UFOs.
It is almost brilliant in its distraction.
That is the ultimate utility of the alien narrative. It is high engagement noise. As an investor, or frankly just as an informed citizen, you have to rigorously ignore the noise and watch the signal.
And the signal is that the global security architecture is actively fracturing in two hemispheres simultaneously. While the public looks up at the clouds, the ballistic missiles are being moved on the ground. That is a very sobering reality check. All right, let's pivot to the final pillar of this structural change theme we are tracking. We have talked about political power with the royals. We have talked about military power with Iran and Cuba. Now we need to talk about the actual plumbing of the system. We need to talk about money.
The crypto standoff. Honestly, this is arguably the most consequential story for the average person's bank account today, even if it sounds a bit overly technical at first glance.
Let's set the scene based on the market data. Bitcoin right now is hovering right around $67,411. It seems kind of stuck in the mud.
It is consolidating. If you look at the technical analysis in the dossier, it is trapped in a very tight trading range between $65,000 and $70,000. The momentum indicators, things like the RSI, which is sitting at 76 right now, and the MACD, they are leaning neutral to bearish.
So the market is essentially holding its breath.
Exactly. The charts show it needs to break above $72,000 to flip the macro sentiment to bullish. Otherwise, it risks falling all the way back down to strong support at $59,930.
But what exactly are they waiting for? Why the hesitation?
They are waiting to see who actually wins the regulatory war currently being fought inside the White House. We have detailed reports here on a third, highly secretive closed-door meeting between massive crypto lobbyists, companies like Coinbase and Ripple, and the traditional banking associations.
And the core battleground of this meeting is stablecoins. Now, for anyone listening who doesn't follow crypto every single day, stablecoins are simply digital tokens that are mathematically pegged to the US dollar. One token equals $1. Why is this specific technology the hill everyone is willing to die on?
It comes down to one single, incredibly powerful word: yield.
Unpack that for us. How does yield break the system?
Think about your own personal bank account right now. Currently, if you put your money in a traditional savings account at a massive institution like a Chase or a Wells Fargo, what kind of interest rate do you actually get? Maybe 0.01%.
Effectively nothing. The bank takes my money, uses it to fund lucrative loans, makes a massive profit margin, and hands me literal pennies.
Right. It is an asymmetric relationship. But these new stablecoin issuers want to offer you 4% or even 5% yield just for holding their digital dollars in a wallet. It functions very similarly to a high-yield money market fund, but purely on the blockchain.
And the traditional banks are obviously terrified of this. They are lobbying frantically to ban this capability altogether.
They are. So the White House advisor leading this, Patrick Witt, is proposing a legislative compromise.
What is the exact compromise on the table?
The proposal currently states that crypto companies can indeed offer these high rewards on stablecoins, but only if those specific coins are actively used for merchant transactions.
Meaning buying a coffee, paying for a service?
Yes.
Yes.
Crucially, you cannot get paid yield just to hold a balance, like you would in a traditional savings account.
Because if I can get a guaranteed 5% return on my digital dollars just for letting them sit securely on my phone, why would I ever keep my life savings in a regular bank account earning zero?
You absolutely wouldn't. The incentive structure completely flips. And that is the existential terror gripping the traditional financial sector today. The treasuries estimate that if high yields on balances are allowed, up to $6.6 trillion could instantly exit the traditional banking system.
$6.6 trillion. That isn't just a market shift. That is a catastrophic deposit flight that would collapse the underlying lending model of virtually every major bank in the United States of America.
Exactly. Commercial banks completely rely on your cheap, sticky deposits to fund 30-year mortgages, auto loans, and small business credit lines. If your money leaves the bank to go to a crypto wallet, the entire national credit system freezes solid.
So when the banks go on television and talk about consumer protection and regulation in this context,
Do not just think about consumer safety. Think about protectionism. The banks aren't actually afraid that crypto is dangerous to the consumer. They are terrified that their own primary product, the low-interest deposit account, is technologically obsolete.
It is literally a battle for the soul of the dollar.
Yeah.
Who gets to hold the master ledger?
And more importantly, who gets to profit from the massive liquidity of the American public? The banking cartel has held a strict monopoly on that yield for centuries. The blockchain threatens to completely break that monopoly by passing the generated yield directly back to the end user.
So let's zoom out and look at the whole picture we have painted today. It feels incredibly chaotic on the surface, but there is a very clear three-line connecting El Salvador, the United Kingdom, the geopolitical posturing, and the crypto markets.
There really is.
We have El Salvador aggressively using AI technology to bypass failing legacy state bureaucracy and forcefully secure their streets. We have the United Kingdom ruthlessly stripping legal immunity from a prince because the old, opaque protections simply don't survive in a transparent, digitized world. And finally, we have the global banking sector desperately fighting to stop blockchain technology from revealing that their centuries-old business model might actually be completely outdated.
The common thread binding all of these files together is transparency versus control. In every single story we discussed in this deep dive, an established legacy gatekeeper, whether that is the traditional medical system, the British monarchy, or the commercial banks, is being directly challenged by a faster, more transparent alternative.
And the gatekeepers are fighting back with everything they have. The banks are lobbying the White House, the king is cutting familial ties to protect the crown, and the geopolitical superpowers are posturing with missiles and UFO files to maintain narrative control.
They are. But historically speaking, technology and transparency almost always win in the long run. The intense friction we are feeling in the news cycle today is just the loud, metallic sound of the old system grinding against the new one.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. And that brings us to our final thought for the day. We always like to leave you with a provocative question to chew on over the weekend, building on the sources we analyzed.
For me, I just keep coming back to that massive $6.6 trillion number in the banking report. It raises a profound, almost uncomfortable question about the actual health of our macroeconomy.
What is the question?
If the traditional banking system of the United States of America is so incredibly fragile that simply allowing everyday customers to earn a fair, free market rate on their own savings would cause a total systemic collapse, does that mean the system is actually safe?
Or does it mean the system is already fundamentally broken and we're all just paying hidden fees to keep it on life support?
Exactly. If your entire business model relies on your customers having absolutely no other viable options, and you have to use federal law to physically prevent them from leaving, your industry might already be dead in the water.
A highly provocative thought to take into your weekend. That is all the time we have for this deep dive. Stay curious, remember to watch the signal and ignore the noise, and we will catch you on the next.
To ensure we can keep bringing you this level of continuity and quality in our analysis, please remember to check the description for links to collaborate or donate via PayPal and through digital content purchases. Your support is what makes this deep dive possible.
Stay informed, stay safe, and maybe think about those layers, the digital and the physical, the macro and the micro, as you go about your weekend.
We'll see you in the next deep dive. Goodbye for now.